Hello students, welcome back to your social studies class. Today let's conclude with our chapter number 24 of civics, that is the forms of government. Universal adult franchise. Franchise means the right to vote. It is the most important requirement of a successful democratic government. When this right is available to all adults, it is called as the universal adult franchise. In our country, India, this right is enjoyed by every person who is a citizen of India and is 18 years of age and above. This right is needed because, number one, everyone should have an equal voice in the governance of the country. It establishes political equality. Number two, democracy is defined as the government of the people, for the people and by the people. And third, government is collectively responsible to all people who have elected it to power.
In India, there is universal adult franchise, which means that all citizens of India who are 18 years and above are given right to vote without any discrimination. This ensures equal participation of all citizens in the democratic process of this country. It also gives a sense of dignity and empowerment to the poor, minorities and other backward classes, as they have an equal say in the matters of their country. One vote, one value is an important principle of democracy. Apart from the Constitution, the Indian government also tries to implement the democratic principle of equality. It makes several laws to ensure equal opportunities to the people and promote social equality. The government also introduces schemes from time to time for the same purpose.
Human rights refer to the right of every person to live a dignified life without facing any discrimination on the basis of religion, gender, caste, race or country. Every individual gets human rights from birth. Neither the government nor any organization or individual has the authority to take away these rights. Human rights are universal in nature. Some of the most important human rights include the right to live, the freedom of thought, expression, and religion, the right to acquire nationality, the right of protection against arrest and detention, the right to education. The United Nations has given an important place to human rights in its objective. The dissemination and publicity of human rights is one of its important objectives. On 10th December 1948, the United Nations proclaimed the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and laid the foundation for these rights. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights consists of 30 articles. All member countries of the United Nations are expected to give these rights to their people. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights was proclaimed when the Indian Constitution was being drafted. The human rights came to be included in the fundamental rights and directive principles of the state policy of the Constitution of India.
Our rights and duties.
Every country has a set of rules according to which the government governs the country. This set of rules is called Constitution. A country also has a Constitution. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was the architect of the Constitution of India. The Constitution of India is the longest written constitution in the world. It came into effect on 26 January 1950 and India became a republic. Since then, this day is celebrated as a Republic Day.
How does the Constitution help us?
A constitution gives every citizen some basic rights. These are called fundamental rights. These rights are for the well-being of the citizens.
What are our rights, sir? All citizens, irrespective of their religion, caste, race, sex, and place of birth, are treated as equals.
Very good, Meena. Who can tell me the next one?
The right to freedom allows all citizens to speak freely, choose any occupation, and reside and travel anywhere within the country. It also provides for free and compulsory education of all children between 6 and 14 years of age.
Very good, Rahul.
The right against exploitation ensures that poor people are not made to work without pay. This right also does not allow children below 14 years of age to be employed.
The right to freedom of religion means that all people are free to follow any religion.
Cultural and educational rights protect the minorities. It also allows them to develop and preserve their culture. The right to constitutional remedies allows every citizen to move court if any of their rights are denied.
Very good, class. We now know that all of us have some rights, but with rights come duties. Let us see what our duties are. We must abide by the Constitution. We must show respect to the national flag and the national anthem. We must take care of the environment. We must take care of public property. We must preserve our cultural heritage. Parents or guardians must send their children to school. Our Constitution gives us some rights and expects us to perform certain duties. We should abide by these and become dutiful citizens of our country.
Women across the world had to fight for their rights to vote. Women have been traditionally viewed as homemakers. People who did not want women to vote argued that they need not have voting rights as they did not pay taxes or fight the wars. Moreover, in their view, politics was not a feminine attribute. In USA and Britain, the suffragette movement was started by a group of women in the middle of the 19th century to fight against the injustice of not being allowed to vote. The women of these groups went on hunger strikes and even chained themselves to railings on the streets to gain public attention. Many of them had to go to prison as well. It was only after years of struggle that their demands were met and they were allowed to vote. In 1918, Britain allowed women to vote only if they were over 30 years and owned a property. The USA and France followed in 1928 and 1945 respectively. However, India recognized the importance of voting rights for women, and the first general elections held in the country in 1952 were based on universal adult franchise.
Almost 250 years ago, women were in a much different position in society. In 1769, women had limited property rights. They could not own property in their own name, nor could they keep their own wages. And over the course of the next 200 years, women would fight for an equal role in society. 1848. Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott, along with 300 activists, gather in Seneca Falls, New York. There, they signed the Declaration of Sentiments and Resolutions, modeled on the Declaration of Independence, and called for the equal treatment of women and men under law and for the voting rights of women. This gathering would become the first official women's rights convention and marked an important moment in the women's rights movement.
Apartheid. Apartheid is an Afrikaans word which means the state of being apart. The majority of the white-skinned people who had colonized the country treated the Africans and Asians very poorly. The South African government consisted mainly of white-skinned people, and it followed a policy of strict segregation based on the rigid racial divisions between the whites and the non-whites. This is known as apartheid. According to the laws of apartheid, the dark-skinned people needed a permit to even enter areas allocated to the white-skinned people. The white-skinned people lived privileged lives at the expense of the dark-skinned people. They ate the best food, lived in enormous houses, and had access to the best education and jobs, unlike the dark-skinned people. The dark-skinned people were denied access to almost all the important public places. They were even barred from most of the hospitals even. The white-skinned people held 80% of the land in the country. The non-whites could not take part in the process of the government, and their trade unions did not have the same rights as the ones of the white-skinned people. Land belonging to the dark-skinned people was forcibly taken away from them and sold to the white people at low prices. Nelson Mandela was one of the greatest figures of the movement against apartheid in South Africa. He became a part of the movement during 1960s when he joined the African National Party. He became the founding member of the African National Party's Youth League. It was a long struggle. Nelson Mandela was imprisoned and there was a great deal of state repression on others who took part in this movement. Nelson Mandela was repeatedly arrested for his anti-government activities and was unsuccessfully prosecuted in the Crescent trial from 1956 to 1961. In 1962, Nelson Mandela was arrested for conspiring to overthrow the apartheid government and was sentenced to life imprisonment in Rivonia trial. He served 27 years in prison and was finally released in 1990. The anti-apartheid movement came to an end in 1994 when a democratic government was established in the country. Since then, people of all races are treated equally in South Africa. Nelson Mandela worked with Frederick Williams de Klerk to abolish apartheid and established multi-racial elections in 1994. He went on to become Africa's first dark-skinned president. Nelson Mandela had received more than 250 honors, which included the Nobel Peace Prize 1993, the US Presidential Medal of Freedom, and Soviet Lenin Peace Prize. He is regarded with great respect within South Africa and is often described as the father of nations.
We explain how Nelson Mandela fought for equality and freedom. Today, Nelson Mandela is one of the best-known role models in the fight against oppression and racial segregation. In 1993, he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his achievements. But what exactly did he do to fight for a more just and free world? On July 18, 1918, when Mandela was born, his father gave him the name Holy Shasha, which means something like troublemaker. A coincidence or a sign of things to come? Mandela grew up in a traditional Xhosa clan before going to an English-speaking boarding school. That was where he first got the name Nelson. At law school, he fought actively against the South African system of racial segregation known as apartheid, which was even written into the law. Mandela joined the ANC, a party that advocated for black Africans' rights. Although Mandela initially believed in peaceful protest, he changed his mind in favor of armed resistance. After the ANC was banned, Mandela's struggle went underground. But Mandela couldn't hide forever. In 1962, he was arrested and sentenced to life in prison as a terrorist. Although some Western politicians supported his imprisonment, more and more people around the world advocated for his release. In 1990, South Africa's new president, Frederick de Klerk, gave in and set the troublemaker free. 4 years later, Nelson Mandela ran for office in the country's first democratic election and was voted in as South Africa's very first black president. Considering himself the president of all South Africans, he united the country that had been divided along racial lines. One of the ways Mandela did this was through sports, such as rugby, which the black population rejected as a sport of apartheid. When South Africa hosted the Rugby World Cup and won the final, Mandela gave the team captain a congratulatory hug in front of millions of viewers, an enormous gesture of reconciliation. Whether through his efforts for the Soccer World Cup or his foundation against AIDS, even after leaving politics, Mandela remained dedicated to his country. To commemorate his tireless struggle, in 2009, an International Day of Remembrance was created in his name on July 18th. Even after his death, Mandela's dedication to peace and reconciliation continues to bear fruit in South Africa and worldwide.
So students, by this we come to the end of our chapter number 24th of civics, that is the forms of government. Thank you.